Come on. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to our cozy little corner of the internet. I'm Pen and today I'll be reading The Food Cycle by The Stars Say Hello. Here is the summary. Atsushi hates his monthly checkups with Yoshino because the one thing he cannot hide from her is how often his weight changes. Yoshino is concerned about Atsushi's eating habits and what might have caused them. Just so you know, there are a few trigger warnings for this. Panic attacks, and also a ED. So yeah, just warning before you get into this, make sure to take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the fic. If there was one thing Atsushi hated about being a part of the armed detective agency, it was the checkups. It's not that he wasn't grateful, it was just so different to how it had been at the orphanage. He had barely been paid attention to, never seeing Shibuzawa if anything interesting happened while he was ill. But now he had people who cared about him. It was a foreign experience, but not an unpleasant one most of the time. But when it came to checkups, Atsushi wished he could just be forgotten again. It made it so much easier having Yoshino as his doctor, seeing as he knew her and trusted her, but it also made it much, much harder, because he wasn't going to dare tell Yoshino a single thing that worried him. So, Yoshino only got the data the machines gave her. Atsushi's heart rate and blood pressure, which she was never exactly content with, but seeing as he never complained, she didn't push anything. Every 3 months there was a routine blood test, just to check everything was fine, which it always was. Atsushi never told Yoshino just how much pain he was in. The only person who knew was his boyfriend, Akutagawa, and maybe Dazai and Rampo, but he found he couldn't hide anything from those two. Yoshino was a good doctor. She didn't pry, and because Atsushi was so careful, she never found out that he might be suffering. But there was one thing he couldn't hide. But the one thing he couldn't hide was his weight fluctuations. It was no secret Atsushi had put on weight since joining the agency. He was a much healthier weight now. No one could deny it. But this wasn't even taking account the fact that the tiger needed to eat much more than the average human. It had been over a year since he joined, and the clothes he was given when he first arrived were too small. He had muscle, but mostly you could just see the weight he's put on. He is no longer skin and bones. He has substance to him. His arms are shonky, and his thighs were chunky now. And yeah, he has a bit of a tummy now. Kunikita likes to use him as a prime example of eating enough, and looking after your body to Dazai, of whom only raised an eyebrow and laughed. Atsushi was glad Dazai didn't tell anyone what he knew. Akutagawa was late doing something for work. Akutagawa was out late doing something for work. Atsushi never questioned him, but he did just let him come in and shower away the blood on the days it got particularly rough, or simply hug him from behind. They would watch a movie and end up asleep on the couch or just cuddle in bed. It was a nice routine. This routine, however, meant they didn't eat at the same time often. Atsushi got hungry easily, and no matter what he snacked on during the day, he always had room for dinner. Chasuke was his favourite, but he had a wide variety of meals batch cooked and stored in the freezer, so the prep was easy when he had a bad pain day. Maybe he shouldn't make the prep so easy for himself. He ponders aimlessly to himself, staring through the oven window, waiting for his dinner to be cooked. He could do with eating a bit less. The thought barely registered when he went to make himself a side dish. He was starving. The minutes passed, and Atsushi sat at the table, eating his dinner perhaps too quickly. Each bite barely over before he took another one, mouth full and stomach adjusting to the food. The uncomfortable The uncomfortable fullness was familiar, but he kept eating, even as his stomach protested to each bite. The taste had turned from enjoyable to sustenance. Sufferance? I don't know. He kept eating until his plate was clean. Staring at the plate in front of him, he felt the familiar guilt for eating too much, creeping familiar guilt from eating too much. Too fast, too much. It wasn't overwhelming, he didn't feel bad for eating at all. He felt that maybe the way he ate was odd, at the very least. He certainly wasn't like Dazai, who would avoid food at all costs. When presented with food, Atsushi would devour it easily. That was the problem. Atsushi's heart pounded as he tried to digest his food. He couldn't tell what it would be like today, if it would go right through him, stay in his system for days, or cause him pain, or barely make any difference. The room seemed dim, even though the lights were on, and Atsushi's eyelids felt too heavy. Not from tiredness, he could almost feel his energy coursing through him, but from being far too lost in his own brain. The weight in his stomach was settling slightly, feeling slightly less uncomfortable now. Maybe the food had travelled upwards, inhibiting his brain, as he found himself considering his habits of food. Today was the first day he had eaten 3 meals in Today was the first day he had eaten 3 meals in a week? It wasn't something he had chosen. He just never thought about it. He was hungry when he woke up, so he ate breakfast, but then he might only snack if someone reminded him or directly gave it to him. Part of the reason he even made an effort today was because the day prior, Rumpo had started sharing his snacks with him. If his lack of eating had become that noticeable, he realized he needed to do something. 3 meals a day today, and he was feeling it. He would carry on eating this way for maybe a week before he slipped back into his old habits. Yes, he got hungry easily, but he also didn't realize it. He was so used to the feeling of hunger He was so used to the feeling of hunger that when it happened, he couldn't place it until it was making him sick and delirious. Sometimes dinner was whatever he put his hands on first in the kitchen, and all that food he had made so easily to prepare just sat in the freezer untouched. It wasn't good for him, he knew that, but it wasn't something he did consciously. A great deal of the time, it was just a habit to him. He ate when he was given food. It wasn't noticeable visually, but it was noticeable during checkups. Atsushi, Atsushi, I know I've asked to have our checkups twice monthly now, because I'm concerned. Yoshino's voice was a mixture of soothing and concern. You had lost 5 pounds you were below your usual weight last time I saw you. Since then, you somehow put on 15 pounds. She continued to explain to Atsushi. It wasn't something he had heard before. It wasn't something he hadn't heard before. He tuned it out. He couldn't bear listening to it. He knew he would start thinking about food if he paid any attention, so Yoshino's words just droned in the background. It's like your body is routinely going through periods of starvation before suddenly going back to a normal eating routine. She was writing something down, scratching at Atsushi's file. Atsushi, Octagawa came around and spoke to me. That got his attention. The agency was still in a truce with the Port Mafia, and it had been common knowledge that him and Octagawa were dating, but it still caught him off guard when Octagawa had any involvement with the agency. Atsushi, Octagawa made me aware of your eating habits. When I asked them, Dazai and Rumpo corroborated his claims. Yoshino set aside his notes. She was looking at him. There was too much worry in her voice, too much worry in her eyes, too much kindness. Her gaze was gentle, and Atsushi thought he might never get used to the genuine care the agency showed him. It made his stomach sink, waiting for punishment, but somehow the care made him feel even worse, undeserving. Atsushi, if I have this right, you go for days consuming less than 700 calories for even weeks, to the point where your body is actively breaking down the fat stores just for energy. Then you seem to remember that you need to eat, and preparing for the next bout of starving. Your body is storing extra fat just in case. Yoshino, it's not deliberate. I swear I'm not trying to. I know. Yoshino cut him off. I know it's not deliberate. It's subconscious, and the only way you can get through this is with support. She sighed. Atsushi, your childhood left you with severe psychological problems. You might not realize or understand yet, but it's important for you to let us help you. He was silent. How could he? There was no way he deserved so much help. The agency already did so much for him. He couldn't ever ask for more. His mind was racing, the room was spinning, his breaths were shallow and catching his throat, his hands. Where did he put his hands? Yoshino was looking at him, but she could see him panicking, but he couldn't. He wouldn't make her go through this. She didn't need to see this. He was being too much. He had to get out. How could he get out of the room? Was he trapped? Stuck in this room? What was going to happen? Was he safe? Hey, Atsushi. Hey, Atsushi. Atsushi felt Yoshino gently. Keep getting words mixed up. Atsushi felt Yoshino's overly soft hands gently picking at his, squeezing them, trying to ground him. Atsushi, can you copy my breathing? I know you can do it. You're really good at it. Exaggerating her breathing, making it slow and even, keeping her voice low and her body still. Yoshino encouraged Atsushi through his panic attack. Well done, Atsushi. You're doing great. You're doing very well. She spoke to him, and he stopped crying. As he stopped crying, a small sympathetic smile on her face. That's it. Just keep breathing. When his breath finally evened out, and his eyes lost that glazed over quality they got whenever he got into a panic attack, Yoshino spoke again. We know that you struggle with being helped. Everyone here has struggles, and everyone here supports each other through it. She said somewhat clumsily but heartfelt. I know I'm not exactly the best at taking care of people. You know I'd rather just treat them with my ability or get straight to the point. She continues, but Atsushi, there isn't a single person here at the agency without their flaws, and you love and support them through everything. She gives him a gentle smile, finally taking her hands away from his. Let us help you too. Okay everyone, I hope you enjoyed this fic. I really love the fic. It is amazing. The food cycle, I've read it this will be my 6th time reading it. But yeah, I love this fic. It's probably one of my most read fics. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and thank you all. Seriously, I'm not sure I've had a chance to thank you in a video yet, but thank you all for 2,000 thanks English. Thank you all for 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. You all mean the world to me. Have a good day. Take care of yourself. I have supports in the description if you need them. Take care of yourself. Bye.